Time for breakfast. We're on John 19. Then, therefore, Pilate took Yeshua and flogged him. And the soldiers plaited a crown of thorns and placed it on his head. And they put a purple robe on him, and came to him and said, "Greetings, sovereign of the Yehudim." And they slapped him in the face. And Pilate went outside and said to them, "See, I am bringing him out to you, to let you know that I find no guilt in him." Then Yeshua came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. And Pilate said to them, "See the man." So when the chief priest and officers saw him, they shouted, saying, "Impale, impale." Pilate said to them, "You take him and impale him, for I find no guilt in him." The Yehudim answered him, "We have a law, and according to our law, he ought to die, for he has made himself the son of Elohim." So when Pilate heard this word, he was more afraid, and went back into the palace and asked Yeshua, "Where are you from?" But Yeshua gave him no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not speak to me? Do you know that I possess authority to impale you, and I possess authority to release you?" Yeshua answered, "You would possess no authority against me if it were not given you from above. Because of this, he who delivered me to you has greater sin." From then on, Pilate was seeking to release him, but the Yehudim shouted, saying, "If you release this one, you are not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes him a sovereign does speak against Caesar." Therefore, when Pilate heard these words, he brought Yeshua out and sat down in the judgment seat in the place that is called Pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha. And it was the preparation day of the Pesach week, and about the 6th hour. And he said to the Yehudim, "See your sovereign." But they shouted, "Away, away, impale him." Pilate said to them, "Shall I impale your sovereign?" The chief priests answered, "We have no sovereign except Caesar." At that time, when he delivered him to them to be impaled, and they took Yeshua and led him away, and bearing his stake, he went out to this so-called place of a skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha, where they impaled him, and 2 others with him, one on one side and one on that side, and Yeshua in the middle. And Pilate wrote a title too, and put it on the stake, and it was written, "Yeshua of Nazareth, the sovereign of the Yehudim." Many of the Yehudim therefore read this title, for the place where Yeshua was impaled was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, in Greek, in Roman. So the chief priest of the Yehudim said to Pilate, "Do not write the sovereign of the Yehudim." But he said, "I am the sovereign of the Yehudim." Pilate answered, "What I have written, I have written." Then the soldiers, when they had impaled Yeshua, took his outer garments and made 4 parts, to each soldier a part, and the inner garment, but the inner garment was without seam, woven from the top in one piece. So they said to each other, "Let us not tear it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be," in order that the scripture might be filled, which says, "They divided my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots." The soldiers therefore indeed did this, and by the stake of Yeshua stood his mother and his mother's sister, Miriam, the wife of Clophas, and Miriam from Magdala. Then Yeshua, seeing his mother and the taught one whom he loved standing by, he said to his mother, "Woman, see your son." Then to the taught one he said, "See your mother." And from that hour the taught one took her to his home. After this, Yeshua, knowing that all had been accomplished in order that the scripture might be accomplished, said, "I thirst." A bowl of sour wine stood there, and they filled a sponge with sour wine and put it on hyssop and held it to his mouth. So when Yeshua took the sour wine, he said, "It has been accomplished." And bowing his head, he gave up his spirit. Therefore, since it was the preparation day, that the body should not remain on the stake on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high one, the Yahudim asked Pilate to have their legs broken and that they be taken away. Therefore the soldiers came and broke the legs of the first and of the other who was impaled with him. But when they came to Yeshua and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and instantly blood and water came out. And he who has seen has witnessed, and his witness is true. And he knows that he is speaking the truth in order that you might believe. For this took place in order for the scripture to be filled. Not one of his bones shall be broken. And again another scripture says, "They shall look on him who they pierced." And after this, Yosef of Ramathaim, being taught one of Yeshua, but secretly for the fear of the Yehudim, asked Pilate that he might take the body of Yeshua, and Pilate gave him permission. Therefore he came and took the body of Yeshua. And Nakdimon, who at first came to Yeshua by night, also came bringing a mixture of myrrh and aloes, about 100 pounds. Then they took the body of Yeshua and bound it in linen wrappings with the spices, as was the habit of the Yehudim for burial. And at the place where he was impaled there was a garden, and in the garden a fresh tomb in which no one had yet been laid. There, then, because of the preparation day of the Yehudim, they laid Yeshua, because the tomb was near.